Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast Still Standing. My name is Shannon. I'm your host. This is the podcast where I interview fascinating people about their challenges, their obstacles, how they overcame them, how they're not only surviving, but thriving. And with an emphasis on the fact that after we heal, quote unquote, there is no after we heal. Healing is an ongoing process, and things are not always perfect, but we can overcome the most difficult, the most painful challenges. And the mission of the podcast is to bring hope and inspiration to all humans, whether they are suffering currently or have or will again, because that is the human condition. So thank you for being here. If you like this podcast, please do me a favor and give it a like, leave a little loving comment below if you don't mind, even if it's an emoji. It really helps the algorithm to let you all know that we are out here sharing inspirational stories. So I wanted to introduce to you, I'm so happy to have with me Justin Sandler today. And who is Justin Sandler? He's the most lovely human who I had the pleasure of meeting briefly years ago, who I have been following on social media. He is a versatile artist, an inspirational voice who uses the power of storytelling to uplift and motivate audiences around the world. He is an accomplished speaker, author, filmmaker, actor, and musician, known for blending creativity, authenticity, and lived experience. Through his work and personal journey, and a book that is coming out soon, Justin entertains and inspires people to transform obstacles into opportunities and rise up from adversity, and that is why we're here. Justin, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so happy to have you and to see you again.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to be here. Very excited to have a chat with you today, and your introduction was absolutely beautiful. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much. I wanted to start by talking a little bit about you. Now, one thing I do know about you is that, well, I'll actually, can you share the name of your book first of all? Because that will kind of start us off to where we're going with this.
Got it. We're gonna program the GPS with the book. So,
Yes,
so the
please.
book is I'm still gonna call it a working title because it's not published yet. My working title is Embrace Love Free, Cancer and Me. And it is a teaching memoir about my life, my cancer journey, and my three-step philosophy, Embrace Love Free, which is how we go through our obstacles and turn them into our opportunities, all through my life experiences, the pitfalls, the challenges, the ways I've overcome and come back, and turn that into a way that I could share with others to help through other challenges that people may be going through. So it's kind of it's a story, it's a journey, and it's a guide all in one. It is done. It is ready to go. And I am currently looking to figure out where I'm going to publish it. So if anybody out there loves teaching memoirs, let me know because I'm looking.
Great. I can't wait to read it. I just kind of want to start by talking about you and your background and wherever you'd like to start. Tell me about yourself as it pertains to your kind of life journey. I mean, everyone's life story is so intricate and long. But of course, we're here to talk about your life challenges and how you've gotten through them. And one of them, I don't know if it's the most significant, but it seems like it would be, is that you were diagnosed with cancer. You were very sick, and you are healthy again, and you are thriving. So wherever you'd like to start, please tell me about yourself.
Thank you. Well, yeah, I mean, the cancer journey is the heaviest weight of all of this, right? It is the biggest, most profound. It was the one that took me the farthest. I literally almost died a couple times. I mean, I was brought to the edge and back again, and then back to the edge and back again. And yeah, I went through every experience, every emotion, everything. And it was the most profound and enlightening experience of my life. So, yeah, that is the big story. That is the anchor. And that's why my book is so focused on the cancer journey. But we don't get to there. We don't just wake up and step into that space. Well, unfortunately, some people do. But like
Yeah.
in pertaining to the story I'm telling and growing up and living life, I didn't just walk into that space. What I am is a person who grew up in the suburbs of Chicago and had a decent childhood, albeit with its challenges, as we do. But the one thing that I've always been passionate about is music and performing. ever since I was able to get on a stage. It was first grade. I was playing violin and performing for several years as a violinist. And then I really wanted to be a drummer, but, and I played drums in the school band for a year, but ended up getting switched to trumpet. And I played all through my high school and whatnot as the lead trumpet player, the jazz band and the marching band, all the nerdy stuff. But I taught myself drums on the side and started playing in rock and roll bands. And I kept playing drums, and I still play drums professionally all the way to this very day. I thought I wanted to be a professional drummer, which I am, but I thought that was the only thing I wanted to be, rock stardom, here I come. But, it was time to go to college and get a degree. I did attend Indiana University. As everybody follows college football, it was a very impressive year for our team to go undefeated and win the entire championship. So that was a nice sort of thing to finally celebrate as a grad and a Hoosier. I decided to explore some classes there and found myself really into directing. I found a real strong suit in because I'm a storyteller. Whether it's music, whether it's film, whether it's acting, whether it's speaking and writing, it's all storytelling. And I realized that I am a storyteller and this is my lane. This is where my strongest areas come from. And my goal through storytelling all these years has always continued to be, and it's grown since, but has been to entertain and to inspire through my storytelling. And I started directing in college. I ended up being pretty good at it. Ended up leaving school with a degree in directing TV and theater. Worked for a couple years in the Chicago market, directing local productions. Found my way into the Coachella Valley out by Palm Springs, and worked for a couple years directing, writing, producing, and editing television commercials for the ABC, Fox, and Telemundo affiliate stations out in that market. And then one day I was like, I've squeezed this lemon and there's not a drop of juice left, and I need to get out and do something bigger and explore life and go back to some of my performance roots. So I dropped it all and moved to LA. Said, let's try it. Let's go for it. And so I launched myself into this crazy world of like acting and music and whatever comes. Well, I had no idea what to expect. And I found it to be way more overwhelming and challenging than I ever thought it would be. I'm in this big market and it is crazy out there. And I'm doing acting. I get myself into a sketch comedy show, had a lot of success with that, but of course, no pay. Opportunities working on some films, student films, indie films, but nothing like major. But then I kept getting asked to play drums with groups, and I'm like, well, it's what I've always wanted, and now it's here. And so I'm playing drums with this person and that artist, a couple solo artists. Then I'm in a band and another band, and then I go through all the trials and tribulations of that world. I was a great drummer, but I wasn't LA great. And so I got
Mhm.
kicked out of a couple bands, and that was really hard. I've had so many wild experiences throughout, and I have always had to find my way back. And I would always use that as fuel. When I got kicked out of the band that I was one of the founding members of, I used that instead of going down. I got mad and I started practicing 3 hours a day until I was, ready to compete at this level. And then boom, into another band and then into another. Found myself recording records, touring through Europe, touring all over the USA. Really great, fun experiences on the road, but also like massive challenges. Like I've had to go through some, and I could go really deep in stories, but I have included all these stories in my book because
Yeah.
there's just too many of them. But I'll give you like one example. Like I ended up with a broken hand on day two of a tour,
Oh,
and I had to stay behind in Las Vegas and have an emergency surgery to put bone back together on my thumb joint. And we were the opening band on a 3 week run I mean, we were the headlining band on a 3 week run with an opening band from Italy, all in one tour bus together. And the tour had to go on. I had to stay back and have surgery and heal for a few days. But this is the mindset that I've always had because I've done shows. I had to play shows with a sprained ankle in the past. Like nothing will keep me off the stage. So when I got the all clear to leave Vegas, I told the merch girls who had stayed behind with me, I go, "Where's the band next?" And they're going to be like, they're in Fort Worth, Texas in 2 days. And I'm like, great, let's go. And they were shocked that I wanted to go back on tour after that. But I rejoined with the band that night, and they thought I just was coming along to be there and just be around everybody and let the opening band drummer still cover my parts. But I was like, I'm getting on stage tonight. And I got on stage without any practice. I grabbed one drumstick. I threw my left arm up in the air with the metal pin still sticking out of it, and I counted us in. And I played, Def Leppard jokes
I was
aside, the
just gonna,
entire
that's where I
show
was going with that.
one armed, but with no practice, with no pedals, with no electronics, just adapting on the fly and figuring out how to simplify the fills and keep the grooves and keep the beat and keep it feeling good. And it was amazing. And
Wow.
I played the entire rest of that tour as a one-armed drummer. And this goes to show there's a twofold part. Number one, it just showed me that, again, nothing stops me. Nothing
Mm-hmm.
stops me. If my hand is unavailable, I have another one. I will still play and I will still rock. But number two, it shows everybody in the audience who came not to just be to see us to be entertained. They saw somebody who showed up for them. A lot of these people, I knew them. We were all connecting online and promoting our show, and they were all coming out in their different small towns in Texas and wherever else. I'm like, no, I'm going to still show up and be there. I promised those people I'd be there to play and entertain them, and I'm going to be there. And what I did was not just entertain them, but inspired them.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of stories like this in my life. And every time I've been faced with these types of challenges, I've had to find a way to overcome. Uh, a few years later, I ended up like everything crashed and burned. Not even a few years later, a year later after that, everything crashed and burned. I left the band. Life was going down. I lost my home during the 2008-9 crash, and I found myself literally homeless in the February of 2009. And again, now I'm like, okay, this must be rock bottom now. Like every time you think you're there, you're at rock bottom, you find a new bottom. And I found the new bottom, but I stayed in it and I sat with it. And I chose to say, you know what? I'm here and there's a reason, and I'm going to sit with this. And as long as it takes for me to figure this out, I'm going to stay with it. Because when you try to flip the script on something like a rock bottom challenge, if we use that overused term, there's gold within that. There's a lesson within that. There's an opportunity that's there that if you take the easy road, because I was given a lifeline. My parents back in Chicago said, "Hey, come on back. You can live at our house for a while, get on your feet again, figure out life, and then." But I knew that if I did that, I would have never returned. I would have got comfortable there and found a new path in my whole world in Chicago, or my life would be so different right now. I knew that I had to sit with that, the pain and the darkness and the depth of all that stuff, because there was a bigger lesson for me to learn. There was a need to turn my life around in several ways. And had I not done that and sat with that and really experienced all that was to offer within that challenge, I don't think I would have turned my life around the way I did. And I don't think I would have been given the fuel and the fire to be able to face the bigger challenges as they came. Because when cancer came, like, yeah, it was major, but like, hey, I've been through challenges, so this is just another one of those opportunities. The silver lining is there. You just have to look for it or uncover it. So those challenges were there. Now there were really fun experiences that happened throughout the times. I mean, touring was a blast. I got to work on some really beautiful, fun film sets. My first movie came by Matthew McConaughey. There's a whole great story about it, but I actually got called in and interviewed, auditioned with him, and he offered me the role. And I did 3 scenes in a film called Surfer Dude with him. And like, then I later on, I got a bunch of national commercials and started like, oh shit, acting's paying me. Oh, acting is giving me and my wife health insurance. And there's been like highs and lows and dips and valleys and everything kind of in between. And it all sort of, I think, prepared me to continue on this journey so that I could keep learning, keep growing, and keep getting to a place where I could face my biggest challenge and go through it with an absolutely different mindset. Now, there's, and I'm kind of on a ramble here, so feel free to cut me off if you have a question, but I'll throw one more piece in before we get to that story is that healing and spirituality and taking care of yourself are of utmost importance. And the only thing that I really soapbox for my journey when, I don't like to preach except for this, and that is start taking care of yourself now. And that is, again, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and physically. And now, meaning now. If you haven't started now, I don't care if there's nothing wrong with you. Not everybody's going to have to face these massive life challenges like cancers, but everybody's facing life challenges. Nobody gets this far without having to go through stuff. We all go through stuff. So the more you've worked on yourself now, the more prepared you are to face everything coming your way. And when I say that, number one, I had been into physical fitness and good eating for most of my adult life. And so I was healthy when I got diagnosed already. I was actually playing in a flag football league and competing in a Gold's Gym 12-week fitness challenge while there was a tumor growing inside of my chest. So I was in very tip-top shape, which you, if you're going to have to go through something that's like major, you want to be as healthy as you can be before you start your treatments. All right. I had started doing, and my wife has been a big catalyst for this. She got into the emotional healing world, and back in like 2013, started going to these retreats to unpack trauma and emotional suppression and all kinds of stuff. And then she said, they're opening this particular retreat up to men in the next round. Maybe you want to give it a try. Nudge, nudge. And so I did. And then we started going to these retreats together every like 3 months and started to break down the walls, these emotional walls where I wouldn't before have let myself feel or cry or anything. Now I'm slowly cracking open. I'm facing the demons. I'm facing the darkness and letting things go, which like, is so important. If you can start doing the emotional work early, it's so important. And then we added spirituality. I mean, I love a lot of religions out there, but one that came to us through a friend of Mary Lou's was a Buddhist practice that we started adding into our day, doing chanting every morning. And that started really also like the philosophy of the Buddhism is essentially turn your poison into medicine, right? So that was already happening. So you can picture now I'm physically healthy, I'm emotionally doing the work. I'm practicing different spiritualities, including Buddhism, which is already promoting this type of methodology. I did shamanic healing work and others. And then suddenly there's this massive cancer diagnosis, which of course completely knocked me on my butt, but I did not stay there for long because it was within days that I was able to kind of figure it all out and to sit with it and to come up with my philosophy and have a full plan on how I was going to move forward into the journey. And had I not been doing all those other things, had everything not come together from my life's experiences that led me to that point,
Mhm.
I think I may have died during cancer and left this world without leaving the mark that I'm able to leave and without helping the number of lives that I'm able to help.
That's so well said. And yeah, do you mind sharing kind of what that experience was like? What was going on for you at the time? How did you know you were sick? And kind of going into the feelings that, just kind of anything you're comfortable sharing about that experience and what it was like.
For sure. I'm comfortable with it all, by the way. So
Yeah. Okay, good.
ask away. Um, during cancer specifically, we rolled live video through Facebook and YouTube.
Yep.
I think there's only almost 100 videos that are out there that I've made. No matter what was going on, especially when it was the hardest and the darkest and the most challenging, that's when I would turn the live video on.
Mhm.
And that's when the most powerful shares came. And those are the videos that the most people would respond to me that seeing that video helped them with their XYZ. And it helped
Mm.
me. It helped me because when I took it off of me and shared outwardly of this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm going through. As I'm talking about it, myself, I start processing it. And suddenly within 15 minutes or so of just vulnerably and openly sharing, I'm suddenly finding the lesson in that day's video. And I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, and I'm learning it in real time and sharing it in real time. So not everybody wants to share their big journeys, their physical journeys, illnesses and stuff. It's fine. There's no rule or right or wrong about that. But if you can take experiences you're going through and not make it just about you, which was my biggest lesson, was it's not about you, dude.
Mhm.
And say, okay, well, I'm experiencing this. How can I become a better person? Who can I help from the experience I'm having now? That's a great method to keep, and it's a great way to keep going when days get tough. So you asked, like, how did I know what was going on? Well, like I said earlier, I was feeling fine for the most part, right? I was playing flag football for the first time since college and doing really well. Working out, my body was pretty ripped. I was on top of the world. And what was really bizarre, and there's some fun videos and stories on this out there as well that I've talked about. All the physical stuff I was doing, getting in some of the best shape of my life. My studio that my wife and I own a production studio called Three Cubed Studios. We were busy and we had just wrapped a 22 Festival award-winning tour with a film that I wrote, directed, and starred in called Welcome to Where You've Always Been, which is about a spoken word artist who faces deep, dark depression and suicidality. So message-driven entertainment, inspiration entertainment, however you want to call it. So that what literally we just came off that tour. I had two national commercials that were still running. One was, I think it was a Progressive Insurance one, was just wrapping up, and then I had a big one for the FDA, big anti-smoking cigarettes are bullies campaign that I was the lead actor in, and it was running for like 3 years, and that was going off. Like I said, we had SAG health insurance, thank goodness,
Yeah.
because
My
we were
God, thank
already
God.
in with the UCLA doctors because of the SAG insurance. And I felt, and I was playing drums in two bands. Like I felt like everything was clicking. I play this. I have a one-man show as well, and I actually play this scene out a little bit, and I do it in my TEDx talk too, where I'm shouting to the sky, "I am ready." I literally did that. I was going on these nighttime bike rides and just feeling really connected and spiritual, and feeling like the vibration of my life, of all these years, things finally all coming together, and we're ready for the next step. And then the next step turned out to be cancer. And then I'm like, that's not what I asked for. But in retrospect, it was.
Hmm. Yeah.
And to be able to say that now and to be able to understand that was really powerful. So, really, I was having these weird spasms in my chest when I would bend over. Like, I'd bend over, we have cats, I'd bend over to clean the kitty litter, and I would have these spasms in my chest. We all thought it was muscular related. I saw three different doctors who all discounted it as myofascia muscular. One gave me muscle relaxers, another got me physical therapy. Oh, you got tight myofascia, blah blah blah. I think this was the tumor that was already pushing and creating extra spasms. We don't know for sure exactly, but it was going on pretty regularly for a while. Then my doctor at UCLA says, "Hey, you know what? You keep having these spasms and nothing has helped. Why don't I order you a CT scan?" And that was right around like February of 2017, right around as we were wrapping up our tour and stuff. I didn't have it right away. I don't know why I didn't just go and get it because then I was feeling fine, whatever. But it was already ordered and in the system. So April, I wake up one Saturday morning. Mary Lou and I are gonna take a long drive. Someone was donating a really nice couch to our studio, this new sofa, and we just had to go pick it up. So we get ready to go on this long drive to get this couch, about an hour away, and I just start feeling really sick. Like it literally feels like I'm experiencing the oncoming of like the worst flu I've ever had. And I don't typically get flus, so it felt weird. I was achy and shaky and chills and pain and headache. And we got the couch loaded. And then I'm like, I can't drive home. I had to somehow lay myself down and sleep the whole hour back. I got home and I jumped in bed. We had a shoot that night on location. And so Mary Lou does, she's our photographer, cinematographer. I typically direct and edit. And I said to her, I can't, I don't think I can go. I don't, I feel like I'm dying right now. And we took my temperature. It was 102.3. So she's like, "Yeah, you're staying in bed. I'll go do the shoot." It wasn't a massive shoot that we needed me there necessarily. It just would have been helpful. And this fever did not break for 3 days. And the shakes and aches and chills did not stop for 3 days. But by day two, I felt like somebody was kneeling on my chest while I was trying to breathe. And that was what got really concerning. Day four, I woke up and suddenly felt fine. I was like, my wife was like, maybe you should still get the CT scan. I was like, but I feel okay now.
That's what I would have done
And then
too.
and then my mom calls. They were using more obscene words with their ask. I'll keep it clean for your podcast. But get the F and CT scan. My mom and my wife, and they're both like, listen, just get it. Something you didn't feel well, your chest was hurting. Go. All right, I'll go. That was a Wednesday. I went and got the scan. Thursday night, Mary Lou and I, that's her name, my wife, we're heading out to another shoot. We do this big annual, this is the Teacher of the Year Awards. We should do the photography every year for it. More than 300 people in a big ballroom at a hotel. And I get a call as we're heading out the door from my doctor's office. So something was discovered in your CT scan, and the doctor needs you to come in so she can go over it with you. Oh, okay. but we can't see you until about 6 p.m. tomorrow night. Okay, but I'm heading to a shoot now. And I'm talking on the phone with we arrive at the shoot. Mary Lou goes in to start shooting a little bit stuff while I'm get the car parked and I'm sitting out front. I'm on the phone. I play this whole scene out in my one man show. It's kind of funny because I'm on the phone with the nurse as she's telling me about all this stuff. And people from we're members of the Encino Chamber of Commerce. So members are coming through and they're trying to say hello to me. And I'm like on the phone hearing that there's something in my chest that I don't know what it is. And it's all this stuff. And like, it was stressful. I was rough that night. Like Mary had to pull me aside and be like, listen, we don't know what's going on, but you got to pull your shit together for this shoot. Just
Yeah.
put on a smile. Let's get through the night and we'll deal with this tomorrow. And I did, and she was right, even though I had to sit at a table with all of the local politicians and their assistants and stuff. Like that's who I'm sitting with. Like all the Congress people and stuff. That's where they sat me. So I'm like, okay, here we go. I'm doing my best to have conversation and just keep the night going on. So by the next night, we go in to see her, and they don't know what's wrong, but they say, listen, we found a mass. It's inside of your chest. From what we can see in that scan, it's stuck to your heart. It looks to be about 13 centimeters. Since we don't know what it is, she goes, this doctor was great and she really cared for me. She overstepped the next protocol of who she was supposed to refer me to. And she referred me instead to the top cardiothoracic surgeon at the main UCLA campus down in Westwood. And she goes, you already have an appointment. I got you dialed in 8 a.m. first thing Monday morning. You're going to go see him. So now I had to get through this entire weekend knowing that I had this mass in my chest. What are we going to do? This is when we started doing live videos to share what was going on because we had to tell people, and I'm not going to sit there and call and text everybody I know. We're like,
Mm-hmm.
screw it. Let's just we're filmmakers. We put up lights, we put up cameras, and we did this big announcement that we found something, and here's what's going to be happening starting on Monday. Meanwhile, I had to get through an entire weekend we where we had a huge event that we had to get through, and an organization had rented out our studio for the Sunday. We had about 100 people here. I had to set up and I mean, there was just so much to deal with. But Monday morning, I met this doctor. Right away, he said, I suspect cancer. So that was like, whoa. I'm like, I didn't come in expecting that. I mean, that was the day I sort of lost my shit because I didn't know what to expect, and I didn't expect cancer.
Mm-hmm.
I just, but oh, there's something here. We're going to do whatever. I don't know what I was thinking. But he then dialed in 2 weeks of testing. That was invasive and rough. I had to travel all over LA to different offices. I even had to do a surgical test where they put me under and did a punch biopsy. They had to puncture my chest plate and pull out a piece of this tumor. We come back 2 weeks later. They gave me my choice of days that week that the doctor was in. I had 3 days to choose from, but I looked at the calendar. The Thursday, the date said May 4th. And I was like, well, if I'm going back to get a potential cancer diagnosis, may the 4th be with me. So I chose May 4th to go back. And we went in and saw him. By this time, I was expecting cancer. Like, there was no doubt. I was much calmer than I was on the first day. For me at this point, I was like, I just want to know what it is and what the proposal is so we can figure this out. I had already started doing some alternative medicines myself. I'm a big proponent of cannabis oils. I had already started taking this as a blend called Rick Simpson oil that has been known to help with cancer symptoms, tumors. Definitely helps with symptoms of treatments. So I was like, doesn't it can't hurt. I like my cannabis anyway, so hey,
Yeah.
it can't
Same.
hurt.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, why not? So I had some of that, and I was already looking into alternative stuff. Like I'm really big into natural, right? I had been eating, like at that point, I've been eating plant-based diet since 2011 already. Very natural type of healing. Not big into medicines. Wasn't on any pills or anything. So I didn't want to do any type of Western medicine regarding this. I was afraid what they were going to say. So it turns out, and I go in there to get the diagnosis. He says, "So we've got a diagnosis. It is a germ cell tumor. Germ is short for the word germinate. Best explanation we have of that, because it's very rare, is that these germ cells they do their business essentially when you're just an embryo. You have, if I could dial this up, you have a little brain and your gonad and a little line that connects the two called the primitive streak. And that's the development you're at that point. And germ cells drop early. They're one of the fastest growing moving cells that you have in your body. And the germ cells travel the streak. They enter the gonad. They determine if you're going to be male or female, and then they start to create the building blocks for your future egg or sperm. So they germinate for short. It's a reproductive type of cell. But in very rare cases, those cells or a cell could get stuck along the journey and never turn on. And with men, we found out that they typically will get stuck in the brain area where they're released, in the chest, in the abdomen, and sometimes they actually form on the testes. That's why this is a relative of testicular cancer. So, and with women are even less rare, more rare, less rare. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Rarer, but they will often be found on the ovary area. Well, mine was this little cell that got stuck where my chest wall would eventually form, and the cell got embedded on the inner side of my chest wall, which is why they call it a mediastinal germ cell tumor. Something one day woke it up, and this little tiny little cell was like, "Hoo, I'm here. Now what do I do?" And it just started multiplying because it wasn't where it needed to be, so it didn't know what to do, and it just multiplied and rapidly multiplied. So much so that by the time we found it, it was about 13 centimeters. 2 weeks later, it was almost at 14 centimeters because as it multiplies,
Insane.
it grows faster. So my doctor says to me, listen, we have a treatment plan signed up for you. It's aggressive. But if we don't get aggressive with it, I give you maybe 1 or 2 months to go because it is crushing your heart. You don't have a stage. It has not spread into your nose or anything like that. It's a self-contained tumor. But you're not going to die from cancer. You're going to die from the tumor crushing your heart. So I was like, oh, okay. So he's like, well, we're going to need to remove it, but we want to do 4 full rounds of chemotherapy to get all the cells to kill all the cells essentially and then take it out, and it's going to be an open chest surgery. I was like, that freaked me out more than
Yeah.
anything. But I was like, wait, why don't we just, even though I don't want to do this, why don't we just crack me open and pull this thing out now? What are we waiting for?
Yank it out.
Yeah, he's like, we can't do it. This type of tumor is so hot that if we try to do any operation on it, any little nicks, and they will happen, will drop little tiny mini cells, and you'll end up with these tumors growing all over your insides. We can't take the chance. We have to find it with nothing lighting up on the scans anymore. And the proposed chemo, get ready for this, 3 different kinds, administered 24 hours a day for a week at a time while living in the hospital. And I'm like, no, no chemotherapy. I don't want that poison in my body. He's like, all right, well, this is how we solve this. So I'm like, I got to think this over. And they're like, all right, well, we already have an oncologist for you. She's at the UCLA building in Santa Monica. You're going to leave here. They're going to squeeze you in this afternoon because we need to start these treatments next week if you're going to do them. So I'm like a little fachated at this point. The doctor and his so my doctor was a brilliant surgeon with credentials a mile long, but a little robotic in his approach to telling you have cancer. His number two, which was the resident or the fellow or whatever, I forgot what you call him. Uh, this guy was really way more dialed into the bedside. And as they were getting ready to leave, he stopped at the door and he turned and he came back to me and he said, "Listen, you're the healthiest patient we've ever seen walk through these doors. And if anybody is going to show us how this is done and pull through on this, you're the guy to do it. And we wish you all the best. Go forth and kick some ass." So I go and I meet my oncologist, and she is wonderful, like such a cool woman. And then she gives me the lowdown on the deal there. And again, I'm like, I don't want to do this. And she's like, listen, I'm not going to let you die. But if we don't do this, then I can't help you. I need you to trust us and do this. Because
Mm.
I told her already about the cannabis, and she was cool with the cannabis too. But she goes, you don't have time to figure out if
Yeah.
that's going to work. Like there's this type of tumor is not going to react to that. And this is what's interesting is because when you say to the world you have cancer, all the Facebook doctors start writing you about the fruit you got to try or this you got to do or all the unsolicited advice. And I have a whole part of my book that talks about what to say and what to not to say to cancer
Oh,
patients
that's great.
because nobody wants to hear your suggestions,
I know.
especially when you didn't ask for them. And it's when someone is just like they heard about a fruit in that you find in the Brazilian rainforest on a Facebook post, and they're like, "You got to do this. Don't do chemo. Eat this fruit." I looked into the fruit. I don't know if you can get it these days, but it was illegal, actually illegal to purchase in the USA, which that's a whole nother tangent on why a fruit would be illegal here. But then again, why is a plant illegal when we talk about things like cannabis, etc.? I'm not going to, that's
Agreed.
another topic for another
Yeah.
day. But the fruit is illegal. You can't get it anyway. And in the studies that I saw about said fruit, there was like 2 or 3 cancers that it had shown to be very helpful with. But cancer isn't a one size fits all, especially like a germ cell tumor is not an environmental cancer. If I had a lymphoma, which was caused by some kind of chemicals, glyphosate, other things like that, which we've seen that those types of chemicals have caused, you can change your diet, you can change your lifestyle, you can do things to help sort of start to reverse some of those. I have a friend who completely reversed a stage 2 lymphoma just through natural remedies. And those things kind of melt away and disappear. A germ cell tumor is a whole different ballgame. This becomes a massive, pulsing, hot tumor, and it was inside of my chest. It was stuck to my lung, my heart, my largest veins. It was there. And even after doing the chemo to hopefully get all the cells to die, it's going to leave behind essentially a fossil. So it still needs to be taken out through surgery. Otherwise, I'd be walking around with a dead rock inside of my chest, stuck to all my major organs. So you can't, like, this was not an environmental thing. And this is also why when I started coming up with my mindset and stuff, and people couldn't understand how I didn't want to be more aggressive and angry and fighting with all the negativity. And I said, no, no fighting, no war. We're not going at it. We're not getting this. We're not kicking its butt. Like, that's not the language that I'm going to talk to my own body with, because this is my own cell of my
Mm.
body, in my body. It's not right. It's not wrong. It's not good. It's not bad, right? It's just a cell that got stuck and couldn't fulfill its purpose. And now it's trying to fulfill its purpose, but it's in the wrong place at the wrong time. And it's just still trying. And like every living thing, it's just trying to survive, which is the natural order of living things. It's not being like, I hate Justin, I'm gonna hurt him. That's not that wasn't what it was. So that's why I had to develop a relationship with the tumor. And I had to really take a whole different approach to really love my body and love every part of my body and be at peace with it, because I know that it inherently was not good or bad. It was part of me. But we had conversations, by the way. I just had to remind it that you fulfilled a bigger mission than you probably were set to fill in the first place, and both of us can't live. And that was the like, we need to make peace here, and one of us has to go, or we both go. So the philosophy that came to me, and stop me anytime, otherwise I'll just keep rambling here. But
Keep going because this
okay,
is such good stuff.
great. So good. Look, you tell me to talk, and I'll just go. The Because I'm very passionate about it too, and I help support a lot of cancer patients, people that I don't even know. But a friend will call, hey, can you talk to this person, this person? I'll always take those calls. I don't charge for coaching cancer patients. I just try to help, listen, be there for them, and if they want talk, if they want feedback, I provide mindset. But what happened to me is all the things I mentioned earlier on this call that I had of my experiences of going through the challenges and all that, combined with where I was, combined with the philosophy and the spirituality. Now I find myself the day before I was supposed to move into the hospital to start, because I had to make peace over the weekend that the chemotherapy I'm gonna accept, even though I don't want to, I'm gonna accept. And that was a big thing for me to release and accept that, knowing that, yeah, if I don't do this, I'm probably gonna die. So I'm gonna have to deal with the side effects that are gonna come, the hair loss, the all the things in order to live. Otherwise, we call it a day now. That Sunday, first, my wife says, what do you want to do on your final day of freedom before everything changes and your immune system changes and all this stuff? And my first wish was, I want to go to the Gentle Barn. And for those that don't live in the LA area, it's about 30, 45 minutes north of where at here in the valley. And it is a rescue for animals. They do really beautiful work because they rescue animals, and then they use their rescued animals and they do work with like kids from the inner city and stuff, and show compassion and healing through the animal relationships, and how if they can come from a bad beginning and overcome and have a happy life, the kids can also. So they do really cool work. Gentle Bar, and check them out. But on Sundays, you can go just as a guest and just pay a donation, and you can go and love on all these animals, hug the cows and brush them, snuggle with the pigs, carry around the chickens, play with the horses, feed them carrots. Like, it's just endless. So I spent my day connecting with animals, and it just was so powerful. I just felt so, just in their recovery stories, because some of them have been through hell. Really, like they're abused farm animals and things like that that have been rescued and revived, and just to connect and feel the animal love, the pure perfection that they are. really made me feel so at ease. Then that evening, one of the members of my local Buddhist district decided to organize what's called a tozo. That means when people get together just to chant, and there's usually a reason. Sometimes it's just to chant for whoever wants to chant. You know, you're chanting for yourself, for others, for whatever. But this particular tozo was a 3 hour window that was all designed to focus their energy on Justin's victory and healing. And so they were all there. There was at least 15 of them that were in this person's living room, and they were all chanting. No one expected me to be there. My chest was hurting pretty bad at this point. Like if I leaned forward, I could feel the tumor pressing against me. And so it was a little harder to breathe. I was having a little more challenge. So I knew this thing was getting serious. But I said, my wife and my dad, who was with us too, because my parents had flown out, I'm like, let's stop by. Let's surprise them and let's stop by. So about an hour in, knocked on the door and they opened it and they saw me. And everyone was shocked that I was even there at that point. And everyone welcomed me with hugs and love. And then they said, please come sit in the front. And so I went and I sat down in the front, and the chanting continued. And I sat there and I chanted with them. But after a while, I was even having a hard time chanting the mantra because of the pain in my chest. But I could feel their energy and hear their voices. And I just dropped and I dropped in, and suddenly things started to crackle. And this was kind of my one of my first God experiences that I can really latch onto. This was the taste of the connection to source at its highest level that I had ever experienced to that point. And I was like transported. It was there were not enough words to describe the feeling that I was having, but the energy was vibrating and it was massive. And in that space, words started to manifest, little phrases. And it was almost like I could see them floating across my screen, if you would, my eyes closed and the screen in my brain. And it was like, embrace your cancer, love the cancer, free cancer. I was like, what is all this stuff? but I, but I sort of grabbed them and I sort of marinated with them a little bit. And to speed up the story, coming out of that and saying goodbye to everybody, I started being like, embrace cancer, love cancer, free cancer. What does this mean? And I couldn't move into the hospital the next day because insurance just it didn't approve me. We had to fight insurance to approve my treatments. That was a whole nother. Every round we had to fight insurance because they didn't think I needed the treatments. We had to get approval after approval after approval. Like, no, this guy's going to die. You got to let him move into the hospital. So I had an extra day to sit with it. But the embrace really started to become strong. And I really started to realize that, hey, if I'm going to go through cancer, even if I don't want to stop, my biggest pain was that I didn't want to, not the cancer, but that I didn't want to stop working. I didn't want to stop my physical activity. I was already signing up for the next season of flag football. Like I didn't want to stop. But if I have to go through cancer now, I have to embrace my situation. I have to embrace the fact that there is a tumor in my chest and I can't close my eyes and wish it to disappear because that's just not how it works. I figured if I can either embrace my cancer or I'm living in denial, not going to work. And then I tell people when you embrace something, you don't have to love it. You don't have to like it, but acceptance gives you the foundation from which to begin to start to realize that okay, now I can go somewhere with this. Now I'm embracing that I'm going through this. What can I do? Where can I go? What can this become? I have accepted that this is what I'm looking at. And the one of the big hurdles of moving into the hospital, and I think my cousin Jake and a mentor of mine named John, who both heard me talking about embracing my cancer and both called me on the same day to make the same comment. They both said, you're kicking butt on embracing cancer, and I see your video and you're doing some really powerful stuff with this mindset, but I hear you still talking negatively about the chemotherapy. But if you're going to go in the hospital and accept the chemo, you have to embrace your treatment plan as well. Otherwise, you're fighting the medicine. And I was like, oh, that's fascinating because I didn't think about that part. So now I have a dual embrace. We move into the hospital on that Tuesday, and I won't go into the whole story. It's in the book. It was the most challenging day. Nothing went right. It was a disaster. Nothing went right. Everything went wrong. And we couldn't even start the chemo right away. There were so many problems. The port surgery didn't happen, and there was miscommunication from everybody, and the pain that they were putting me through with continuously trying to start IVs, and my veins were popping because I was fasting, and like it was awful. But by day two, I had the port installed. We started the chemotherapy, and that is when I said, "Okay, I embraced you." And that is when I wasn't just chanting for my own health, but I started to look at the chemotherapy bags and started to chant gratitude to the medicine and not call it poison while it was coming into my body. And I started to say, "You're here to heal me. I welcome you in. I embrace the treatment, and I let my body receive it, and I bless my body to go through this with as much ease and light as possible." So embracing was big. That week in the hospital was not easy. It wasn't like I was like, ah, but I kept myself active. I never turned the TV on once during all my rounds of chemo because, like, daytime TV especially is the worst garbage. Didn't watch any TV. Didn't spend a lot of time online except for making my own videos. Mostly I was chanting, journaling, writing. I had a bunch of cool books, reading really inspirational books, and exercising. I had my pole full of all the bags of medicine connected to the port in my chest, and I would get up with this pole. I couldn't leave the floor. That whole fourth floor was I call it the chemo ward. I guess they call it the oncology floor. So I couldn't leave, but I could do as many laps. So I would take my pole and I'd be walking laps. I'd go out 3, 4 times a day to walk laps. And I had exercise bands. I was doing curls. Like I have pictures of me. I'm a lunatic. I brought my own food in. I had them provide me with a refrigerator. And another thing that I tell a lot of people too is I advocated for my own health. And as a patient, and this is, I get to speak for UCLA sometimes, and I talk about the patient advocacy. I would say I would on day one, and people, this is something if you have to move into the hospital on day one that you move in, you can ask for the nutritionist to come see you. And I had the nutritionist say, "Hey, I like a plant-based diet. I want healthier options of what's on your menu." So they would approve. Okay, Justin can call in, and if he wants an avocado at any time, give it to him. No questions asked. Other little things that they would make notes and help cater to me. They would also bring a special fridge into my room because I requested it. So I bring protein shakes. I had alkaline water. I had my own like raw almond butter. I healthy snacks because I knew I needed to keep my weight up, and my cannabis oil, which my oncologist said, "Use it. You have my blessing. Just don't tell the doctors on staff that you're using it."
Mm-hmm.
The nurses knew. They didn't care. They were all for it too. But, I figure if you got to go through cancer, a little cannabis doesn't hurt. The next big thing that came to me, though, was that love. And this is the big one, right? But I realized that whole message of love is that if I don't learn to love the scenario I'm in, love what I'm going through, love my tumor, love my cancer. What the hell? Love, it sounds crazy, but love is where healing happens. The energy of love is expansive. Fear is restrictive and closing. This is also the difference between victim and victor. I know, very overused saying, but victim mode, poor me, it's happening to me, everything me, 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 versus what if I love all of this? What if I say, hey, I've accepted that I'm here and I'm going to love every aspect of being in the hospital. I'm going to love every nurse and care partner that walks through the door. I'm going to love the treatments. I'm going to love the tumor. And I'm going to love being me right now in this position because I have the ability to do so many cool things with my life right here, right now. And this is when I started having even greater connection to source, however you want to word it in your own spiritual words, connection to higher power, connection to a vibrating love, the taste of enlightenment. The further I got into my treatments and the harder things got, the closer I was tasting the enlightenment at the same time. And I was like, words were coming through me. I was sharing through videos. I was sharing to people in the room that would come in. At one time, I remember I'm sitting there in my bed, like in my third round of chemo, and I was like, oh, but I was like spouting wisdom of stuff. And I had two nurses and a care partner. They were all sitting there with tears rolling down their face in the room with me as I was just like preaching to them. Like I was like, I don't even know where this is coming from, but because of the love vibration, because of the fact that I chose to be in that space, and because of the fact that in round two I had that very important realization that it wasn't about me and that I had to do everything I could to make this about helping other people, it all started to flip. And this was a really big turning point because things got harder. Like even in the love vibration, it didn't make it easier. Like the suffering suffered. Like I went through it. I mean, the pain was crazy. All the hair was gone on my body. My ears were ringing nonstop. My nose was bleeding. I was getting mouth sores from time to time. My legs were holding water. I looked like I was dying on days. I was just pale and eye bloodshot and like, yeah, it got nuts and worse after each round. And I had to keep pulling myself together out 2 week break at home to go back and move in again. But I had to do it.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember seeing you. And I remember when you said, it's something stuck with me forever that you said, and it was just the way that chemo felt. You said something like it was like crushing your bones. Do you
Mm,
remember saying that? It was like something about something like that, where it made me think, I've always wondered when people say it's painful, like,
yeah.
what does it feel like? Like, I don't think whatever it was you said gave words to what, if you haven't been through it, and
Mm,
hopefully you never do have to go through it.
mhm.
It's so hard to understand, like, but what is the pain coming from? What is happening in your body? And it was really interesting to hear you talk about it, just because you don't often hear people literally, like you said, you documented it and you
Yeah.
looked so sick.
Yeah.
And I was worried about, it was like, oh, I don't know if this guy's going to make it,
Oh, a lot of
like,
my friends didn't think I was. They told
I,
me later.
yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's scary to what,
Hmm.
and how positive. I mean, I'm sure I don't want to say that it's a good thing or a bad thing, but you did have a level of, I don't know, I hate the word positivity because it sounds like a judgment, but you know what I mean? Like, you kept
Yeah.
your spirits up in whatever way that you could.
Yeah.
And you did service by showing people what it's like, but also allowed us to watch you heal
Hmm. Oh yeah.
at the same
Yeah.
time.
Sure. Yeah. The pain stuff, like the chemo gets rough, and when you've taken
Yeah.
that much in, it takes a toll, man. Like I said, they kind of bring you to the edge and then bring you back again, right?
Yeah.
Because they got to, like when you have a fast growing cell type of tumor like I had, they have to kill off all the cells aggressively, and they need chemo attacks fast growing cells, but that means they got to kill all their fast growing cells. There is no
Mm.
target. I don't know, maybe this exists and we don't know about it, but at least in our with what we have the access to, that's what there is. And yeah, like that was like legit. And after my fourth round, there was a night that I was laying in my backyard on one of our lounge chairs, and like I look almost like the Emperor from Star Wars. Like I was
Yeah.
pasted white with the hood over my head,
Hmm.
and I was laying there, and it felt like someone was electrocuting me. It felt like, and it was every couple minutes, very sporadically. You just didn't know when it would hit, but it's every few minutes. It was like zzz, like someone would hit me with a bolt of lightning, and the pain would travel my entire body, and I would yelp out loud, and my body would jump. And so I'm like, oh, I guess it's time for a live video. so,
Yeah. Yeah. And you looked like
so
Powder
yeah,
from the movie
which
Powder.
which is my wife's favorite character. She called me my her.
Oh.
She used to call me her powder when she first met me because I was really pale and my hair was like bleached white, almost white and long. And she used to call me. She's like, she goes, I used to have a crush on powder. I'm like,
Oh.
you did this? No, but I did. I looked like now I was bald and pale white. But I was going through those, and the pain was undescribable, off the charts, and I suffered with a live audience, and it is what it is because that wasn't the end of the pain. That was the end of round four. We tested after that round. The tumor came back in the scans. Finally, all the cells were dark. Right, the PET scan helps you see that, and you could see like where the tumor was. Some of it had melted around the outside, and the rest was just a dark mass, still stuck to my heart. It was stuck to my right lung, my heart, my superior vena cava, my left innominate vein, a bunch of those things. And so now it's time to schedule surgery. And we go and have a pre-op, sign here, you might die on surgery, sign here, et cetera, all that stuff. And then let's do your blood labs, and then we'll have you for surgery later this week, whenever it was. And we did the blood draws, and then we left. We had actually a lunch meeting in the area, and I got a phone call that said, hey, calling from the hospital. We did your blood labs here. We need you to turn around and come back to the emergency room. And I was like, but I'm having a meeting. Can I come after we're done eating? And they're like, no, we're going to actually ask if you'll go ahead and pack up and leave now, Oh, and please be careful. What does that mean? Well, it turns out that the chemo had, it zaps your blood count, which is why a lot of people get like I was at one point neutropenic, which means my white blood cells were too low. That's usually the biggest. Well, this turned out to hit my platelets. Now, the platelets, your average platelet should be about 250 to 350 parts per million. Mine was 3,
Oh, wow.
which means I could tap something, even if I don't bleed on the outside, it could cause a bruise on the inside and start bleeding internally. I would die. I'd bleed out from the inside. If I were to cut myself, my body has no ability to stop the bleeding because that's what platelets do. They cauterize and stop bleeding. So they needed me to come back to the hospital and be careful. They checked me in overnight. I did blood infusions all night long, transfusions all night, platelets, packed platelets, blood cells, and they let me go a day later because it got just high enough to go home, but not high enough to have surgery. So they actually had to postpone my surgery. And we had to keep checking as my platelets slowly climbed. We had to get over 100 parts per million to actually be allowed to have surgery. And when we finally hit that, I was able to go in and have the surgery. Turned out to be an 8.5 hour open chest surgery. I was terrified for this part because this the idea of being unconscious with my chest open on a table really freaked me out. My family was there. Some of my best friends were there. Some of the surgeons and people came out of the operating room to go talk to my family afterwards. And they said that was the most intense surgery we've ever witnessed in all of our years in this operating room. So obviously, there was a lot of fine work that my surgeon had to do. God bless him. But they ended up having to get the tumor out and cut around what it was stuck to. So 2/3 of my right lung were taken out. My whole inside chest wall was cut away and repatched with a material called Gore-Tex, which is found in like raincoats and gym shoes. It's like a meshy material. The superior vena cava vein was removed and rebuilt with bovine heart tissue.
Amazing.
Now, waking up being part cow wasn't on anything that I signed. Also, being a plant-based person at the time and finding out that I was now part farm animal was a little weird. But there it was. I don't moo, so I guess we're okay. But I'm part cow. Um, my left innominate vein, which drains the left upper extremity, that vein had to be removed completely, but they don't rebuild that. So all over my ICU room were signs saying no blood draws or blood pressure cuffs on the left arm because that could have been horrendous. What's kind of cool though is your body has a little team of infrastructure builders, little construction workers, and better than anything I've seen here in California working on the roads. So it went in there and it rebuilt new ways of moving the blood. It built new little mini veins and things like that. Your body will build new highways to move the blood. Because my whole arm was numb for almost a year, but it eventually came back online. So that was pretty fascinating. I spent 7 days in the ICU. I couldn't even stand up. I couldn't roll over. I had tubes coming out of every part of my body, 3 chest tubes, 2 IVs, catheter. I couldn't go to the bathroom on my own. I mean, months ago, I'm running up and down the field at full speed playing flag football. Now I can't barely take one step in front of the next because I have no energy. I'm trying to walk and I'm like out of breath. And I'm like, it's every step is labored. And I'm like, what happened? But I got out of the hospital after 7 days and they're like, go forth and heal. Okay, now what? So I'm kind of coming back to life. About 2 months in, they say, hey, you can start doing light weights now. You can start doing some things to work your body back. And I was like, sweet. Now I'm going to show everybody how it's done on this side of it. Right. We come back, we're going to document this and we're going to get strong again and we're going to lead the charge. Well, something happened. There was a complication. And long story short, so there's too many things leading up to this to tell the whole story now. Again, it's in the book. Long story short, I ended up with what's called a cardiac tamponade. Cardiac tamponade is when your heart sac fills with fluid and doesn't release the fluid, and your heart starts to collapse underneath the pressure of the fluid inside of the heart sac. I was saved by a miracle. I should have been dead. We discovered it that day. I was rushed to the hospital. It was a Saturday, so there was doctors in street clothes coming in on call. They did some more tests on the spot and said there's a liter of fluid inside of your heart sac, and the top right aorta has collapsed. It's only a matter of time today before the whole heart is gone. We need to rush you into surgery immediately and pump your heart. Now, my wife and I happened to be that day. I had a scan in the morning, and then we went off to a holiday party, a lunch party. The scan that was scheduled for that day is the reason why I was saved. Had it not been that day when I had it, I don't even because you don't find out about this until it's usually too late. They call it a
Hmm.
widowmaker event, and that's what they told,
Oh,
told my
yeah.
wife. So they said, "Hey, when's the last time you ate?" And I was like, "Oh, about an hour ago. Yeah, we came from a holiday party, had lunch." They're like, "Oh, shoot. Well, we can't put you under,
Hmm.
so we're gonna have to keep you awake during this heart surgery and drain your heart." So that was weird, to be watching surgery happen on your body. But they punctured my chest, they fed tubing into me, they started pulling fluid off my heart until they got most of it off. Sent me up to a room with a bag still hanging out of me that continued to drain fluid. Now my doctor, the guy who did the main surgery, comes in a day or two later to see me and says, "There's no reason that should have happened. I'm afraid there's cancer in your heart. I'm going to recommend another surgery." I'm like, "Come on, dude.
Come
Like,
on.
really?
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Another surgery?" Yeah. And I don't know if my body can go through all that. I was depleted. They're like, "Unless we do this, we're not going to know. And if there's cancer in your heart and we don't detect it now, like, this is bad." Also, while we test for it, we're going to cut a hole in your pericardium. It's called a pericardial window. So we're actually going to create a drain for you anyway. That way, if your heart sac does happen to fill up with fluid, there'll be a permanent drain that your body will just reabsorb it. So reluctantly, I decided to go ahead and do the surgery. We didn't have to do an open chest this time. They entered me from the side and they went in. Fortunately, they tested the piece of tissue around the spot and there was no cancer detected. But what happened was that my left lung and my heart ended up fusing together during recovery. And something with the fused organs caused fluid to start flooding into my heart until it was full. So they had to dissect the two organs apart from each other as well. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks, spent Christmas there, got out just before New Year's. And by the time they let me out, like I was pretty rough shape before, but I was already starting to gain a little strength. But this heart episode, the whole next year of my life was just, and now I'm sent to recover. I'm completely depleted. But now what's really weird is that I can't work. I can't do anything really physical. I still feel like shit. My body feels destroyed. And people aren't visiting anymore. All the friends and the family and the people that are coming over, three, four, five different groups a day, bringing food, helping out. Now that they see I'm going to live and I'm on the other side, there's not as urgency to come see me. So less visitors, less love coming my way. And and I can't do anything for myself. My wife is trying to still help, but she's now dealing with her own stuff and she's getting sick from having to be a caregiver. And so now we face darkness again.
Mm.
And here's where it gets real because, like, I'm alive, I should be happy. But there was a window of time a few months after I was done with that surgery where I got more depressed than I'd ever been. And I had to sit with that depression and really feel it and really go through those motions and then rediscover my own three words: embrace, love, free, and start to embrace where I was, where my body was, even though I mean, there was time I was having flashbacks, like, and I have been diagnosed officially with PTSD
I was going to
after
ask if
testing.
you would
I have,
be, because I can't imagine how you wouldn't.
yeah, I have been. I went through a lot of testing, and that was one of the diagnoses. Absolutely, PTSD. Because I was having literal flashbacks where I would look at the mirror and I would suddenly be in the cancer
Yeah.
in the bed in the hospital, and I'd be like, and it would take me out of completely offline. I'd come back with whoa, like I would feel it. It was like, I would literally feel like I was literally hooked up to the machines again. On other days I just didn't recognize who was looking back at me in the mirror. I was
Hmm.
like I said before cancer, I was ripped. Like I was really healthy, long hair, ripped body. Now I'm like still only a little bit of hair growing back now that chemo has stopped. I had gotten down to as low as 134 pounds at my lightest after the big surgeries. I just didn't recognize who was looking back at me. But I had to say, okay, I need to embrace this person and I need to love this part of the process as well. And then the free part, which I haven't really discussed because I didn't know what that meant, the free part. What does free mean? Well, free means when you've learned the lesson and you've overcome the challenge, you need to free yourself from the obstacle and move forward, leaving the obstacle behind and only taking with what you've learned and grown and where you're going to go with it now. And I realized that I was still holding on to the ideology of being a cancer patient. I was still living like I was, like, I'm the patient. Come see me. I need special treatment. I'm sick. I'm a cancer patient. But I had to change the mindset and be like, no, I'm a survivor. and I'm changing my ideas now. I'm going to free myself of the cancer patient version and move into the healed version of me and start going forward to what can I do now? How can I grow and build myself? And then as 2018 kept going, I was struck with inspiration. I wanted to write a book and I had started making notes, but then I saw a one person show a friend of ours put on, solo theater. And I was like, nope, my show is writing itself right now in my brain. I need to put all my energy into writing my one man show. And I did. I wrote a one man show. And by March of 2019, I debuted my one man show. And I played this show 5 times during the year. And then I did a TEDx talk. And then the world shut down in 2020. So I decided to start to pull my show on hiatus and start working on my book. And I worked on my book diligently for 3 years. And then I spent almost a year doing the full edit. And now I've designed the proposal and I've got a book to share. And I appear on wonderful podcasts like yours. And I share my story. And I'm still coaching cancer patients whenever I'm helping a few people right now currently. And whatever I can keep doing to give back and to share. And we're just, I feel like I've been just talking away and I appreciate you're a great audience. But,
No,
but,
this
uh,
is, yeah,
this is only the tip of the iceberg
I know.
and that's why I
Yeah.
wrote the book because there is so much more to the journey, to the pre-story, to the cancer story, to what I went through, and to how I went through the hard times and how I came to the good times and the realizations and the mindset and the philosophy, and it all weave together. And to this day, and I like to do a lot of content sharing what I'm going through, what I'm thinking, what I'm experiencing, and I put it online. But like even a few weeks ago, I was struggling. I was like, my body was hurting. I had a couple injuries that formed, and I'm in pain and I'm tired. And I'm like having work challenges with my company. And Mary Lou and I were trying to get our film. We just wrapped production on a new film that we just debuted over the weekend. But we were trying to get the edit done, and it was just the amount of work was insane. And I was like, man, I'm feeling really dark. I'm feeling really depressed. And like it's okay. And I did a video about this. It's like, yeah, like to think like, oh, you're a cancer survivor, you should just be happy every single day. Yay, I survived, I'm alive, let's be happy. But that's not how it works.
Yep.
Now, like in the Buddhist philosophy, we talk about happiness is something you choose, right? Happiness is something inside, right? The external world can't take your happiness or make you happy. You must learn to experience joy and gratitude and happiness and be in alignment and then experience the world around you. But it doesn't mean that you can wake up and just be happy every day. You have to choose it over and over. And when you're experiencing the darkness, sometimes you need to say, hey, well, I'm going to accept this darkness. I'm going to embrace what I'm feeling now. See why this is coming up. Asking questions is great. Why? Asking your body questions is really interesting if you ask and can get quiet enough to listen to the answer. But no, none of us are going to be just like, yay, all the time. That's not normal. We're human beings. And even though I went through cancer, like I still had plenty of trauma and stuff from my past. That cancer doesn't just cure your life, you still have to keep doing the work. I mean, I see a psychologist once a week and do therapy, talk therapy. I've been doing further testing for mental health for myself to really understand my brain. I still go on, healing retreats. My wife and I are part of a couples healing community. We do monthly events with to improve our relationship. Like you got to keep doing the work, even though I don't like using the word work. You got to keep doing it. You got to keep showing up for yourself. You've got to keep choosing it. Zig Ziglar has this great quote, which I'm going to totally destroy, but it's like something like inspiration um, doesn't last, neither does cleanliness. That's why you have to bathe every day. I totally destroyed that quote.
I
Point is, like
understand the
you
gist.
know what I mean? Like just because you got clean doesn't mean you're going to be clean tomorrow. You got to still bathe every day. You got to choose your inspiration every day. You got to choose what we let ourselves watch and listen to and see in the world and how we who we surround ourselves with and what thoughts we think and even though we're going to be tempted by all the things, we still need to come back to center and keep reminding ourselves to love and stay in the love vibration and to keep thinking about everything I'm facing. There is an opportunity with every obstacle. How can I become better? And who can I help because of this?
Oh, love, you were supposed to be here because of the partly because of this. I mean, I really do believe literally how sick you were that this and how you the way you described it of everything was going so well And then you're like, I'm ready for the next level. Well, from a spiritual perspective, we just don't realize sometimes how we get to that next level is might not be easy. I
Hmm.
remember I had fought and fought to be an actor I was like working 27 jobs and struggling, and then I suddenly made it as a voice actor, and I was like, I'm finally an actor. And I took myself to Costa Rica, and I'm cruising down along the beach on my bike going, this is the happiest I've ever been. I'm so happy. And like a month later, vocal disorder that took me out for 6 years. And I was like, why is this happening to me? I've never been happier. What I didn't know then was that losing my voice would lead me to such a different path, a spiritual awakening, service in the spiritual community, understanding myself better, healing old wounds, and then coming back to voiceover in six after all of that and understanding the purpose. And that's Earth School. It's not always going to be,
Earth School.
yay,
I
this is
love
the best day of
that.
my life. It's, and not to say that if it is the best day of your life to expect a fall either.
Hmm.
But I just want to thank you so much because I know that's a lot to have to like, I know you lived it and it can be a lot to have to explain it all over again. But I mean, I know the healing goes on. PTSD in itself is a whole episode,
Yeah.
and how
Hmm.
we heal that. But thank you for telling your story in a way where you answered all the questions I would have asked. And normally, if we had more time, I'd be like, okay, so now what do you do to, but you offered it. You shared how along the way you coped, how you're
Yeah.
still coping, and most importantly, what I love that you shared is that it doesn't mean you don't still get depressed. It doesn't mean there aren't hard days. It doesn't mean you always feel wonderful,
Hmm.
but it is the consistency in self care, the consistency. No one's asking you to be happy every day.
Hmm.
Um, all we can do is just keep on loving ourselves
Hmm.
learning to receive love and give love and to
Yeah.
be love. And I know that sounds maybe a little hokey, but it's just true.
I know
And
it. It
yeah,
does,
yeah,
and it is at the same time.
yeah. I know sometimes
Be hokey. It's okay.
I like
Be a
being
little
hokey.
woo woo. You know what I mean?
Yes, and I am really excited because I know that your book is going to be published and it is going to be influential and it is going to. I'm passing it on to everyone. I know I'll read it, and I
Oh.
promise you that, and I will support it, and I will plug it because I can. I know you're a beautiful speaker. You're a beautiful writer. You have a beautiful voice to share, and thank you for doing it here on this podcast.
Yes.
This is exactly why I feel so passionate about this project and
Mhm.
about connecting with beautiful people like you. So I just want to thank you for your vulnerability, your time, your energy, for just being you and being an inspiration. I really do believe this is your second, this is like the second chapter of, okay,
Mhm.
you're already a good person. Now, how can we serve?
Mm. I really appreciate that. Thank you. And you pointed out about retelling the story, which I've done a lot of times, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Every time I do, I call it and I started saying this when we were shooting our film Welcome to Where You've Always Been, which was the film I made the year before cancer, and it was about a spoken word artist who overcomes depression and suicidality. And that was the message in that film. And every morning before on our shoot days, every morning, Mary Lou and I would stop the work and we would thank our crew and talk about the purpose of the movie because purpose and passion really drive. And we were saying it then, and I keep saying it now, and it's the one person rule, meaning at the film, if this film helps save one person, if my story, telling it over and over again, one person hears your podcast that needed to hear something that helps their life or saves their life, even that extreme. And I'm not pretending to be like a savior
Hmm.
because saving could just be like getting that one thing that helps someone turn the corner. If one person does, then the entire thing was worth it. And I think that mentality of like thinking that one person at a time, right? We don't have to save the world,
Yeah.
right? We just have to help one person at a time. A ripple effect will occur. Help one person. If you help one person, they'll help another person and keep helping one person. And that's just what I strive to do. And even though I'm very fortunate that I've gotten to return to a lot of the things I did before. I'm working out again. I'm in the gym 6 days a week,
Good.
keep showing up for myself. I've gotten to get back into the acting space and done some really cool films as an actor since coming back around. I'm playing drums, not
Oh,
as full time as I
cool.
used to. There are some challenges that I can play. I just don't have the 2 hours heavy rock and roll sets in me, but I can still hold my own. I just did a Viper Room show about 6 weeks ago.
Great.
And so I'm still getting hired for gigs. So still getting to do a lot of the things, but it's like that shift I talked about earlier when I said I'm ready, right? This gave me a whole new platform. This gave me a whole new purpose and mission to really continue to hunker down and focus on creating, entertaining, and inspiring people. And it doesn't always have to be heavy. The film that my wife and I just made is her directorial debut. It's called Wellness, by the way, and
Oh,
it's a really fun
congratulations.
film. And I'm the editor and producer on it. This is a comedy, but a comedy with also a message around healing. So you don't have it doesn't always have to be super heavy stuff, right? But creating, continuously being in the space of creating is so powerful. We have another film that we've been developing that we tried to do it years ago. We're gonna try to get back into it very soon now. It's called Caregiving Cancer, The Silent Heroes. And the website is caregivingcancer.org. We're raising funds. It's a nonprofit though, so we're raising funds as a tax deduction. And this is going to be a full length documentary, and it's going to focus on our journey, but it's going to be through the caregiver's eyes. And it's going to be with
Mm,
an aim of supporting cancer caregivers and what their journeys are like and what kind of resources and help there are for them. There's a lot of stuff out there that most of us never hear about, especially as patients. Like, you're just given your diagnosis and some pamphlets, and then you're like, go have fun. But there really needs to be more hope, more opportunities, more awareness of the kind of facilities that are out there. Like, I'll throw one, 'cause I love them, the We Spark organization. They're based here in Sherman Oaks. We Spark supports cancer patients and their caregivers with all free services: Reiki, massage, support groups, mental health groups, yoga classes, like the unbelievable amount of stuff that you and your caregiver can go to, all for free, for
that's
healing,
great.
for working on helping go through the mental and physical challenges of the journey. It's all, and these places exist, and most people have no idea about them. So we want to really let more people know because it's out there. So if anybody out there is going through, whether it's you or your loved one, don't just stop with the doctors. Keep seeking more information. Keep looking for places in your area that may have these types of opportunities. And if you want support, reach out to me. I will always take time and make as much time as I am able to take a phone call, give some advice, share some philosophy, or just be someone. Sometimes someone going through cancer has so much being thrown at them that it's like a bombardment, and they don't know what to do, and they don't want to talk about so many of these things because of the way those conversations can go. And if they can get on a call for 30 minutes or an hour with somebody who's been there before, who can just hold space, who understands where they've been, sometimes that's all they need. So you can reach out to me. You can go to my website, which is justinsandler.com. There's a contact page. You can send me an email. All of my social media is on the homepage of my website. You can click on them on every major social media platform. Connect with me everywhere, and reach out to me on whichever one is your favorite. And there's also a link on the homepage as well to sign up for my mailing list. I would love for you guys to put your email address in. I don't sell anything or spam people. It's more like when my book's coming out, I'm going to send out a blast, but I don't do a lot there. But it's a way for us to stay in touch. If I can help in any way, share, inspire, or spread some love to anybody out there listening, it's my honor and pleasure to do so. I'm here to serve, I'm here to love, and I'm here to be. And I thank you for having me because this has been a beautiful opportunity to chat with you and to be part of your show.
Likewise, Justin, thank you so, so much for your presence, your vulnerability, your energy, your insight, for all of it. You're such a beautiful person, and you are, bless you, you're doing such incredible work.
Thank you.
Thank you.